Welcome to Coffee to Go, where we center ourselves in the scriptures, seasons, and holy days of the Christian tradition. I'm Karen Peter here with Blake Smith, and we welcome you on the journey. Today is Transfiguration Sunday, which is the last Sunday after Epiphany and the season after Epiphany, and it's the last Sunday before Ash Wednesday, which begins the Lenten season. So on January 6th, we began with Epiphany, which is the light of divine presence revealed to all the world, that God's good purposes include everybody. And then we end this Epiphany season with light again being revealed, but it's the divine presence embodied and revealed in Jesus Christ. So it's quite a journey to go through this short season of Epiphany and the Sundays after Epiphany. So on Transfiguration Sunday, we remember that Jesus had a transformative experience. That's where the transfigured comes out. His figure, his appearance transformed, and was seen by some of the disciples. And through this experience, his glory, and I would say aura, because sometimes we get mixed up with the word glory. So his aura of light was revealed to the disciples. So we are still obviously with Jesus, since we're talking about his transfiguring situation. And we are still on the mountain, or at least we've gone back up the mountain, depending on which passage you're reading. So we've gone back up the mountain. A few of the disciples were invited to climb that mountain with Jesus. And again, in Matthew, we remember that all the momentous things happen on the mountain. And it's a take on the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament too, with things that happened with Moses on the mountain. And Matthew very much wants to frame Jesus in situations or scenes that allow us to connect to what's happening with Moses and the experiences Moses had. He is, Matthew, after all, writing to a Jewish audience. And so he very much wants to help people connect Jesus and what's happening with Jesus to Moses and their traditional understandings of God's divine presence with Moses. So we'll hear that in the scripture today, Blake.
All right, yeah, and you mentioned the connection with the Hebrew Scriptures. This first few words in the passage that I'm going to read today is connection to one of our other passages in what we call the Common Lectionary for today. So it's the Hebrew text from Exodus 24, and often when we see in the scriptures something that says, and then, or after that, or whatever, and this one begins with 6 days later, and the connection there is that the glory of the Lord rested on the mountain like a cloud for 6 days before speaking to Moses. And so here, the glory of the Lord is going to shine after 6 days and speak to Peter, James, and John. So here we go. It's the 17th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, and it is the 1st through the 9th verse. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became bright as light. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will set up 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they raised their eyes, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." So why does this matter? Couple things. First of all, Jesus here is revealed in the light. We talked a little bit about being the light last week. And Jesus' appearance was transformed. It was illuminated. We might use the terminology that he had this aura about him. To the disciples, though, it seemed that Jesus was revealed as a divine or heavenly being, which is why they want to build a dwelling place for him. They want to offer their hospitality. It's almost like this aha moment for them, and that's what you do for heavenly beings. It's part of the Jewish culture to entertain angels unaware. But after the scary voice, and I can just imagine it myself, you're standing there and out of this cloud comes this, and I
Big voice. Yeah.
imagine a deep voice. Maybe it was a booming woman's voice
I don't know.
that names Jesus as divine son. And the disciples, it says that they fall to the ground and become fearful. What we need to keep in mind here is that to lower oneself, to prostrate oneself, to kneel or to bow is to acknowledge the power and authority of the other. So culturally, I mean, seems pretty clear in the scripture they fell from fear, but it might also have been you're all of a sudden in the clear presence of the holy, and so you fall to the ground, you prostrate yourself. And in royal courts, you bow and you keep your head down before royalty, before the king or the queen or whatever. And the king shows favor by touching the ones he wishes to lift their face, those on whom his favor rests. And if we look closely at the scripture here, Jesus does this. He touches them and he invites them to rise. They're not subordinates. They are his beloved. So just a kind of a hidden piece there. We think, oh, they fell to the ground. They were shaking in fear. And then he just says, get up. But there is something taking place here that is really significant. And then the ending, Jesus says, tell no one. So anybody who's been around Community of Christ long enough knows
That's not going to happen.
that is not happening. Somebody's going to tell somebody. And so it seems futile. It's not likely that this is going to stay under wraps. But that is what Jesus is saying. And it's not because he wants to keep it secret. I mean, we've just talked about being the light and shining the light. But the thing here is that Jesus doesn't want people to get the wrong idea. If they don't have the full story, then they take bits and pieces and they make of it what they make of it from their stereotypes or their beliefs or whatever it is. And Jesus knew that this was going to get ugly before it got better, So if people started to respond to Jesus as if he was this
mighty warrior,
mighty warrior that they'd been hoping for, then his mission would be derailed. That was not the message he was trying to get across.
Right.
And without being able to share the whole story, the bits and pieces could be used in a way that wouldn't be helpful. So, some questions we might ask ourselves this week. What does the divine presence want me to see? What is being illuminated around me? I wonder how often that we look at the things that are going on around us and think about what might God want us to see in this. I know for me, quite honestly, it's often in end of the day reflection or, a couple of days later that I go, oh my gosh, I needed to see that.
Yeah.
So
there have been times I can think of moments in my life where you're just going about your day, but something happens and it's almost like the color is brighter. The light in that moment is brighter, and it's just imprinted in you. And so you can look back on that memory and you realize that it is like in hypercolor, technicolor. It has really been illuminated and stays with you.
Yeah. Another question we might ask with regards to illuminating is, what is the divine light illuminating in me?
Okay, that might not be so good.
Maybe it is time for the hide it under the bushel. Is that what you're
It
saying?
might be.
Uh, well, and the final question, I'll just say another question, because hopefully these things will spark other questions for you. But another question we might ask is, when has God lifted my face,
Yeah.
invited me to rise? And in that sense of acknowledging the beloved. So,
So experiencing this week, we've done Transfiguration so many times, Blake, since we started this, because it shows up in different ways in the lectionary. But I think this week a good reminder would be to spend a little bit of time in the light, being illuminated in conversation at the end of your day. It's kind of a mini prayer of examine. Prayer of examine is a wonderful spiritual practice, but this is like the mini version for people like me that have a short attention span. So you can, at the end of the day, by yourself or with your family or friends, simply say, what has been illuminated around me today? And everyone shares, or you share, or write in your journal, or whatever your practice is. Or what was illuminated in me today? So they're pretty easy questions. We should be able to remember them all week. Put a candle out so you see it, so you remember to do it, and simply light that low candle and do this mini prayer of examine. What was illuminated around me today? What was illuminated in me today?
yeah, I think we might be surprised what we realize when we were intentional about that. So thanks for that, Karin. Well, our blessing today uh, is perhaps a familiar lyric for folks. I will just say, for those who are um, deeply touched by the sound of music and its story, I would caution you: do not go to Stowe, Vermont, uh, which is where the Von Trapp family estate is, because you'll see some other sides of the story. So it's a great story. It's still a great story, and some great things that happen there. But there were some things that I had just taken for granted anyway. So don't ruin that for yourself. Continue to enjoy
Just watch the
movie.
movie and be
Just
happy.
watch the movie and be happy, and let that be your experience. So our blessing, in honor of all of the mountainous experiences in Matthew, is climb every mountain. And it's a great example of the influence that Sister Gregory, a Dominican theater-loving nun from Illinois, who was friendly with star Mary Martin, had. She had this influence on Rodgers and Hammerstein during the creation of The Sound of Music. In February of 1958, Sister Gregory wrote to the creative team, "The whole purpose of life, it seems to me, is pinpointed in Maria's struggle to choose between my two vocations. What does God want me to do with my life? How does he wish me to spend my love?" Some lines from Sister Gregory's letter eventually made their way into the musical's book verbatim. So here are those words. And no, I'm not going to sing it.
Okay, for our listening audience that
Yeah.
don't, we'll give you a behind the scenes thing. So every week I find a blessing for the end of this and surprise Blake with them. And every so often I will toss in something that's musical. And Blake was part of Up With People, which is a musical singing group, has a lovely voice. And I'm hoping that one of these days he's going to break out in song instead of simply reading the blessing. That might not be today, though. So let's hear it, Blake.
So my children have forbidden. I used to do that when I would preach. I would sing quite
Mhm.
often, actually, and my children have begged me not to do that anymore. So I'm on their behalf. I'm not going to sing this, but maybe this tune will float through your mind today
Mhm.
and this week as you think about these ways of illuminating and being illuminated. Climb every mountain, search high and low, follow every byway, every path you know. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow till you find your dream. A dream that will need all the love you can give every day of your life for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow till you find your dream. Thanks for being with us here today at Coffee to Go. And as always, we hope you'll join us again for the next part of our journey through the liturgical seasons and holy days of the Christian tradition.